Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier biz development partner within tech. Today, we're joined by the founder and CEO of Sybill, Gorish Aggarwal. Gorish, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Oliver.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Would you mind telling the audience a little about what you do and what the mission is behind Sybill?
Yeah, so sure. Sybill is an AI assistant for B2B sales rep. And essentially the problem we are trying to solve is if you look at a typical B2B sales rep, in their day, they are on calls with customers for maybe 1.5 hours a day at max. That's actual face time. The remaining 6 to 7 hours goes into back office admin work or team meetings or prospecting. Where Sybil comes in is we are automating away all of that back office admin work so that sellers can be on calls with customers for 5 or 6 hours instead of that measly 1.5 hours, which means they can drive in more deal volume. They can actually have more effective deal cycles. And essentially, the goal is like, how do we use that eventually get it to a point where customers are able to drive 3 to 4x revenue for the company, or sellers are able to drive 3 to 4x revenue for the companies. And that's the vision. We started about 4 years ago. Series A funded, have 750 customers to date. Yeah, very exciting journey. We have made a pivot. We started with something very different, and now we are focusing on this AI assistant vision for the last 3 years.
Hmm,
Yeah, that's
awesome.
brought a bit about the company.
Yeah, no, awesome, awesome. And prior to kind of making the shift to AI 3 years ago, what was the founding gap you saw? What did you see and what made you want to switch?
Yeah, so I've been in AI for about 10 years before Sybil. I used to lecture at Stanford in the field of optimization theory, which is a precursor to AI. Uh, the problem we started out with was slightly different. So as a lecturer, my lecture shifted online because of COVID. And
Mm,
so I did not have that in-person connect that I would otherwise get. And a lot of the times the lecture felt like I was giving a one-way story to students, and I could not get anything back because on Zoom, it's such a hard job to read facial expressions and body language. So our first concept or idea was, can we build a mind reader for Zoom calls
mm,
to capture, those facial expressions, those body language, and connect that to the context so that the presenter can understand, oh, this is where the joke landed, or this is where the audience is confused, or this part is very engaging. Uh, so that's how we started the company in 2020. Now, as soon as we jumped into it, sales got super excited. Like sellers are like, I want to have this for my buyer audience. They want to read the minds of buyers, which makes a lot of sense. So we got into sales, and then as I did like 400 or so interviews with sellers just to learn what B2B sales is all about, I realized that's the tip of the iceberg problem. Like the actual bulk of the matter is the amount of back office work that these guys have to do. And this is stuff that they absolutely hate doing because it's not adding revenue, it's repetitive work. It's also not why people went into sales. Like you don't get into sales to update CRM or create decks. So we decided we would actually help automating this pathway. And then obviously ChatGPT and LLMs became big in late 22. So that was like a direct, like, okay, we have found the gold mine of how to now enable the vision that we have been thinking of for the last 12 months. So that's how we got here.
no, awesome, awesome. And it's super unique, especially in the sales space. How have you found it just being there's that adoption curve just across the board with
Mhm.
AI, but more specifically in the AI or sales space with AI, there's kind of that slower adoption curve because people have just been they're used to doing what they do. It's just part
Yeah.
of their day to day. How have you gone about kind of educating prospects and showing them that value of what you can offer?
Yeah, sales is very interesting. There are many, many factors to it. So one is the sales tech market is extremely crowded. So there are an innumerable number of tools trying to do everything under the sun for sales. And a lot of the times they're all siloed, which is sad, but it is true. The salespeople themselves are also very uh, like the diversity of the backgrounds that a seller is coming from. Like we have this thing where we look at stories of sales rep and how they got into sales. We call it humans of sales. And you have folks coming in from an engineering background to a finance back, like that's how they started out. And then some people are like door-to-door car salesmen or body lotion salesmen, and then they are in software tech sales. So it's like the entire spectrum of sales is very unique. And for them, they are already overloaded with so many tools that they have to deal with on a regular basis. Like typical tech stack consists of 20 to 25 tools at the minimum for a salesperson. And even us, like at our stage, our sellers are using 12, 13 tools at minimum. And that's very complex. Salespeople don't need as many tools. They should not need that many tools to get their job done, right?
Mm,
So for us to come in and say, here is another tool, which eventually will take out these other things from your plate, or you won't have to interact, and the AI will be interacting in your, it does create that initial bit of, okay, is this really happening? Is this not happening? One of the things that we have focused on is how do we make our workflows and adoption super seamless so salesperson don't feel that they have to change anything in their way of doing the work. The work gets done for them, and that helps a lot with one, building trust on the system, and getting them uh, excited about using it. Two, it just becomes a part of their day to day. So now Sybill is always, for example, any of our customers, Sybill is on their calls. It does the follow up for them. It takes, it updates the CRM on their behalf. So there are, and like their manager gets a summary note, which is a personalized summary from the call. So three things that they otherwise would have to do are taken care of for them without them having to even lift a finger. That's like that kind of an adoption cycle really helps with getting sellers like, hey, I don't need to do as much work, but the work is still getting done and I'm making more money. That's like, oh, what we have seen work really well.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a very good value proposition. And you mentioned you've gone through some Series A funding up to
Yep.
750 customers. How has that journey been? What was it like kind of getting the company off the ground to where it is now?
Um, So lots of ups and downs in the early days until we really found our mojo, which was like with this AI assistant workflow. One of the unique parts about the space today is it's a lot of companies trying to like slap on just some prompt-based engines onto a chat GPT or some kind of LLMs. While that does get you to a certain level of results, it doesn't completely automate away the output, which is what you need if you really want to take the task of a rep split. So we have been getting that piece figured out, and that's one of our unique innovations as well. Like, how do we use AI and LLMs in a way where it's not simply getting you 60 or 70% of the way there, it's actually getting to 95% of the way, and that adds in much more precise output. In terms of the company, we have seen a lot. Like we have seen the bottom sides and we have seen the tops. And right now it feels good to be on the above side. Uh, was there a specific question that I missed?
No, that was just what the journey's been like. You mentioned some of the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Let's say, Gorsh, as the founder, CEO now, when you go through those downs, how do you turn it around, being the leader of the company?
Oh man. For me, the down moment was when we were running out of cash in 3 months. Uh, and honestly, like we we had even acquisition offers at some point. Uh, and we have been trying to fundraise for a while. Didn't happen. Uh, and we were not achieving product market fit. This is like 2022 uh, days. The market itself was down. I think for me personally, what I learned at that point was startups is what I would be doing for the rest of my life. It's what I'm built for. Like till that point, it was still in some ways, okay, I'm gonna experiment with this and see how it goes. After that moment, it was like, this is my calling, in a way. And that really strengthened our resolve to get this working. Uh, in terms of how we got out of it, honestly, Oliver, it was way more luck than anything that we did. Uh, we got our second round of funding term sheet on 25th December, like 4 a.m. in the morning, like Christmas. I was out, the team was traveling, and we got an email from an investor that we hadn't spoken to for in 3 weeks. And that was how the term sheet came along, and we did not have to get acquired or anything.
Very
But
nice.
from there, we were very clear, like what we need to do. We knew the mistakes we had made, and we actively worked on making sure we didn't make them again.
Hmm. And without sharing your secret sauce, what were those mistakes, and how'd you make sure you didn't make them again?
Focus on metrics. That was a big one. Get the PMF out. We saw PMF for the first time in 2023. And once you feel it, it's very different. Like you will know it. If you have a question of, my investor used to say this, uh, uh, I did not believe him at the time, but like if you are thinking whether you have PMF or not, you probably don't have it.
Hmm.
Uh, you need to, yeah, you will feel the PMF being there. And I think that is what happened a lot. And we started honing down rigorously. Uh, we were we were tracking a lot more things. We were doing a lot more customer interviews. We shifted our direction a lot. We focused on product adoption, getting the product much more, like getting users to see the product value as opposed to just making it a more of theoretical thing, and cut down the focus of the company as well. Started focusing on smaller things, but much more deeply vertically integrated stuff.
Awesome, awesome. And Gorish, we've talked about kind of your journey to get to the point of where you guys are now. We
Mhm.
can look ahead for a little bit as well. What's kind of the goals for Sybil? What's the mission? What's the mindset as the CEO?
So the idea for us is like, as we automate away a lot of these tasks, what we believe is the reps will be way more effective in their day to day than what is possible today, essentially. And at some point, I believe reps should be able to make, like, it would not be off to hear mid-market reps having a quota of $3 million or $4 million, and they making a shit ton of commission on that. And that's already happening in the software development domain. I believe I will see the same in the sales domain. And I, I want to bring in that vision. I want to make that happen with Sybil. So essentially, and if you're able to get people to that point, to me, that's like a generational company in the GTM tech space that we could build with this.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And gosh, you're operating a tech company within the sales space. You've
Yeah.
grown it from zero to one. If you could give one piece of advice about sales itself to the audience listening, what's the biggest thing you've learned over the past 4 years?
Learn to listen. Like when I came in, I would, like coming in from an engineer lecturer background, like I would talk a lot. I would like, I would do most of the talking, like 70, 80%. And over the years, like I now talk like 35, 40%, even in a sales call. Like listening is such an important skill because half of the questions, half of the things that you're trying to say are already present in what the customer wants to tell you. So you don't need to think more. And early days, like sales rep, like they're super excited, like let's do this, let's go for it. And that's where this gap of, you need to talk the buyer's language as opposed to you need to tell your language.
Hmm.
And uh, like people early on in their career, they miss this out a lot. And it takes a while to get there. But the sooner you realize that, the sooner you start shaping your sales conversations, and that starts shaping your commission and your life further on.
Mm, masterclass, masterclass. And no, it is huge. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is growing the company as well. Is when you first get started, you feel like you've got to explain everything. When in reality, you
Yeah.
just have to listen. And sometimes even the prospect will talk themselves into an understanding. You don't even have to explain it to them.
Yep. Yep.
No, it's awesome, Gorsh. And that's all I got for you today. I really appreciate you coming on, telling a little bit about your story, what you guys are doing with Sybill. Sounds like you guys are building a great platform, great company. And obviously, you've got the experience to back it up now. You've been through the highs and the lows, like we shared. So I'm sure you guys got some great things on the horizon as well.
Thank you so much, Oliver.
Thank you for coming on. And for everybody listening, I'll be sure to link Gorish down in the description. I'll link Sybil down in the description. If you guys want to go check them out. But Gorish, one last time, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Oliver, for having me on.